My journey started when I went travelling. So you know when you go travelling, your mind opens up a little bit. So I was in New Zealand at the time. I didn't really know much about veganism or even vegetarian. I just thought it was a diet. I was randomly walking around the supermarket one day and picked up a book which I was interested in it because it was all talking about health and detox foods. So I still had no idea about veganism at the time. So I picked up the book, started reading it, started learning about, health and veganism, and I just was inspired by it. So I started slowly changing my diet, just bringing in a little bit more, meatless Mondays, and started slowly just trying to upgrade my health a little bit. At the time, I didn't really I wasn't really going into the vegan lifestyle. I was like, okay, I'll try the vegetarian stuff. So over the space of about a year, I just started slowly minimizing meat out of my diet. And then one time then, I think it was a year later, I was exposed to footage of the animal industries, the dairy industry, and I was just absolutely shocked. So I had tried to go vegan before for the health reasons, and I tried 3 times and I failed. But once I was actually exposed to the animal videos, I could not unsee it, and I literally could not be a part of it anymore. So I remember the day, it was like March 20th, 2016. I wrote in my journal, I'm vegan, I'm vegan, I'm vegan. I just had this little, script about why I'm vegan and all this. And from that day onwards, I literally never looked back. So I was kind of, like any vegan, well, maybe not everyone, but I wasn't really fully aware of how to eat balanced, how to nourish my body properly. So I was kind of, eating salads. I cut out meat, but I wasn't really eating properly to nourish my body. So a little while later then, I came home to Ireland. I went traveling to America, and I got the opportunity to learn nutrition. So I went deeper into the nutrition side of the vegan diet, and literally my whole world opened. So I was inspired to become a holistic nutrition consultant. So the main reason was obviously to help animals. But I thought, instead of when I started my vegan journey, I was a little bit aggressive in my approach to people, because, when you first go vegan, you're like, why don't people know this? Like, people would go, everyone needs to be vegan. So I was a little bit aggressive in my approach. But then I realized, okay, maybe if I can come on the side of nutrition and health and inform people in a softer way of, what happens to animals, but also, it's important for your health as well. So that kind of started my journey, really, of finding the balance between helping animals and also helping people understand that it's the animals, but also your health as well. So I've been on that journey ever since. That was, 7 years ago. So that was basically my journey into veganism.
Nice. My one is not as exciting as that one, or not as as cool as that one. But I'm vegan a little bit less than Lorna, shorter time period. I'm vegan about 2 years now, and I was vegetarian for a little while before that. And what actually put me into it was, I'm an animal person. I've always been an animal person. And what actually ended up happening was I left the military. Had been in the military for a little while, and I came out and was just looking for another job. Basically, I needed to make money and whatever. So I took a role at a meat factory, and I wasn't vegetarian while I did this. So I took the job, and I lasted, I think, about a month. And it just, the horrors that I witnessed, and I remember coming home just thinking to myself, like, I'm working in an environment, I'm supposed to love animals, and this is happening to animals. And it just, from the day I started working in there, I'll never forget it. That day I turned vegetarian straight away. and had to stay there for the month because I needed the bloody money. But I packed it in soon after that. And for me, the animal side of it was a big thing. But also what I noticed in this place was there was literally animals being killed to be thrown in the bin. The waste. Now, I mean, the waste of meat that was just, I worked in an area, it was the freezer area. So all the meat that had to be processed was put in there and it was frozen. And we used to obviously have to update that stock and keep it updated. And the amount of meat that was being thrown in the bin. And I just remember going down one day and I'll never forget it, putting a load of steak in a bin. And I just thought to myself, that's a load of animals that have been killed for what? You know, to be thrown in the bin. So I came home and I packed in the job as soon as I could and started to become, you know, adopt the vegetarian lifestyle. And never thought anything, you know, thought I was doing good. And I never thought anything really about dairy or cheese or anything like that. And then the universe decided to put this person in my life. And we've been together 2 years now, so we are a couple. And Lorna kind of introduced me to, you know, the dairy side of things. And, you know, just the atrocities that happened there. And I was completely oblivious to it. You know, I just thought, well, there's no animals being killed, I thought, you know, so I'm doing good. But as soon as my eyes were open to that, you know, once I realised the kind of trauma that the animals went through, I wanted to be vegan. And I became vegan overnight. It was one of the simplest transitions. I'm very lucky, but it was one of the simplest transitions that I had. And I also had Lorna because she's obviously the qualified holistic coach and the nutritionist. So she was able to guide me on the right foods, you know, to eat and to, but I have to say, like, just morally, however hard it would have taken me to transition, I would have done it, because morally, as soon as I became vegan, it just changed my life, you know, from not only a physical side of things, but an emotional side of things as well. And I feel more connected, and I feel like I'm on the right path in regards to my life, that I'm serving a purpose now, if that makes sense, you know. So that was my kind of way into it. But as of now, it's 2 years, and like I said, I'll never ever eat meat or go back to eating dairy or anything like that ever again.
Yeah,
I don't think I could. Morally, I wouldn't be able.
I mean, and the thing is, like, now it's so easy to be able to eat a vegan diet, because, like, I remember when I first started my vegan journey in Ireland. To be a vegan in Ireland 7 years ago was, you were an absolute, you know, weirdo. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you being so awkward? And, you know, there wasn't really a whole lot of foods available, vegan alternatives. So it was hard, like, you know. But now there's so much alternatives. Like, there's, you know, every restaurant has something vegan friendly, or there's so much available. So it's absolutely easy to be vegan now. So
yeah,
I think once you find your why and connect your reason to the animals, there's no question, really. Like, one thing we always say, you know, when you see an ex-vegan, it's just like, there's no such thing as an ex-vegan. You can't love animals and then decide, okay, well, actually, you know what, I don't love animals anymore. It's just, it doesn't make sense to us. So
yeah, and for me, like, I always, you know, you always get the people online that are going to argue, and, you know, it's just part of life. And my only response to anybody that kind of questions it, and, you know, they kind of say, oh, well, a cow is not the same as my dog at home. You know, I can always just throw it back at them. I say, if you can sit down, promise me that you can sit down and you can watch the footage of what goes on inside a slaughterhouse, and you can sit there without feeling anything, and come back to me and tell me that an animal deserves that much torture and that much cruelty to make it to your plate, and that's okay with you. Like, we could have a discussion then, but they can never do it, because, you know, I know majority of people, they don't want to watch that. Yeah. They don't want to see that, what goes on, because, you know, I think if they know where their food is coming from and they see where it's coming from, they wouldn't eat it, you know?
Yeah. There's a bit I want to sort of ask a little follow-up to, if that's okay. Lorna, you mentioned that, you know, when you went vegan, you had a stage where you were quite forthright, should we say, in your veganism. Yeah. I relate. I know exactly where you're coming from. I think that's quite common, and I could totally relate. And I think most people's experience kind of is like that. Was that the same for you, Aoife, considering that your experiences were quite kind of visceral. You were really close to that kind of production. Did you feel kind of almost a more intense kind of anger than a
Oh
traditional
yes.
vegan? I feel like I would.
Yeah, absolutely. Like having seen what goes on in there, yeah, I was like Lorna will tell you, like I literally just I wanted to argue and express it so much because it was like you, like unless you've experienced the environment and seen what actually goes on, it's absolutely horrendous. And even like the videos are bad to watch and to see them is distraught enough, but like you're in an environment and you can see this happening and you can hear it happening. Like it's traumatizing, absolutely traumatizing. And all I wanted to do was express it in a way to make people understand that these are innocent animals. Like you're literally, if you don't support animal abuse towards your dog or your cat, why are you supporting it towards, a cow or a pig or any other kind of animal? So yeah, it was. And I kind of had to, come about it in another way, because obviously getting angry is not the best way. And yeah, I have to admit, I struggled with that for a long, long time. I was like, how can people not see it, But some people, they choose not to see it, and that's the thing. And it's just to keep bringing the awareness, I suppose, and doing it in a way that makes them understand and makes them think, oh, actually, she's right, my cat is the same as that pig or whatever. So kind of in a way now, the way I even on my own social media, the way I post the message, it's not as aggressive. I mean, I still stand up for the animals, and I still do it in a forceful way, we'd say, but not as aggressive. So yeah, it was tough. Like, and that's something I still, I still deal with every day. And I think that's what makes me so passionate about it now. That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. How about friends and family for you both? Like when you went into the transition, you mentioned kind of, Lorna, you mentioned Ireland sort of 7 years ago, the place it was at in terms of response to veganism and options and so on and so forth. How have you seen that evolve? And if you think about like going way back to your childhoods and what that was like compared to now, it'd be good to hear about your experiences there in the sort of friends and family space.
Yeah, I mean, as a child and growing up, we were that typical family, you have your potatoes, your vegetables, and your bit of meat, whatever it was, chicken or fish. And that was just your daily meal. So anything outside of that was just a little bit strange. But when I first went vegan, I remember, I think it was my mother probably had the biggest issue. She was like, why are you doing that for? She just thought I was jumping on this, trend or new thing I read in my book, and I was just going with it. So she tried everything. She was like, oh, I'm just making this meal there. And I'd be questioning her, like, what's in it? Tell me every ingredient that you're putting in it, And if there was something in it that obviously wasn't vegan, I'd be like, no, I'm not having that. So I eventually started making my own dinners. And yeah, I think she had the biggest issue. At the time, my sister was actually on the paleo diet, so she was the complete opposite.
Right, right.
Yeah. And then I had moved away. So I suppose some of my family kind of were open to eating, trying some of my food at the time. I might make a big vegetarian meal or a vegan meal, and they'd try it. But when I actually moved away, I moved out of Ireland briefly for 2 years. My sister took over. She changed from a paleo to a vegan diet because I was consistently sending messages. We have a family group. We have a family group, so I send them like posts and stuff, and occasionally I'd be like, you can't call yourself animal lovers, and here you are eating them, and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know whether it was a little bit of pressure for me. And then my sister, kind of the spark clicked with her. So she was living at home at the time, so she was actually making meals. She was making the vegan meals for them, and they were tasting them, and they were like, oh, actually, this is pretty good. So she did that little bit of transitioning for me. But yeah, at the time before I left, as I said, it was very it'd be hard to find a vegan meal if you went out to eat. If you go out with your family, you might have a bit of lettuce on the plate, or you're just a bit of a nuisance. And then fast forward, when I came back home then 2 years later, you could see some of the supermarkets and stuff might have a little bit of, something vegan alternative. There was a little bit, especially the health shops, I suppose, they're always a little bit more ahead. But yeah, over the years, it's just like in the last 2 years especially, it has been such a massive growth of vegan alternatives. And just, even my extended family, I've noticed some of my family members, they've gone vegan, like it just kind of spread around. I felt like every person around me had some form of vegan connection. It's way more open to people, so it was really nice to see that evolve over the years.
Yeah, so Lorna literally converted her whole family to veganism. She was the lowest drop in the ocean, and then the ripple effect began. On my end, there's nobody in my family. I mean, in my immediate family, there's only myself, my brother, and my mum and dad. And no, there's no vegans in my family. But I have to say, since I began the transition and started, like Lorna said, cooking a little bit more and putting out some good food, I've opened my mum and dad's and my brother's eyes, so they're a lot more conscious. So they're not vegan quite yet, but even I know it was mum with her shopping, like she's dipping into a lot more, vegan based things and organic food. So I definitely struck a chord there, and I kind of done the same as to what Lorna did. I just went home and explained the situation or whatever. And of course, mams being mams, what are you doing that for? And my mum had the experience. I was gay, so I was already at the telling her that I was gay. So she's like, "You're coming home and you're telling me this now?" I was like, it was like every time I come home, you're telling me something. But no, I kind of sparked it in her, and I was like, "Look, man, think about it from the animal's point of view." And my mum is an animal lover, and all my family are animal lovers. And just think about it from that point of view. We have dogs all our lives. It's like you wouldn't like to see anyone hurting any of the dogs. So, in fairness, from what was coming in and out of the house, it's a lot different, and I'm working on them. We're not in Ireland at the moment, but I'm still doing it from afar, and I'm working on it, But just going back to the childhood kind of thing, myself and my brother, as we were growing up, we were always into sports and stuff like that. But like Lorna said, it was always just, a carb, so potatoes, pasta, veggies, and whatever meat you wanted. And one thing I would say, I wasn't always into meat as such. I had chicken. I never really ate red meat or anything like that. I had chicken and turkey and the usual Irish kind of based diet. So, I suppose we weren't exposed to veganism growing up. So I didn't really, know what it was or anything. And it's just as I started finding my own feet, I discovered, the reality of how your food makes it to your plate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think out of my mum, dad, and my brother, I think my dad is on the way. There's, like Lorna said, there's so many alternatives out there. And I've kind of tricked him a few times. I kind of offered to make him breakfast. I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I'll make that for you." And he never knows the difference. And he was like, "Jesus, I wouldn't even notice that." So they're definitely more open-minded. And I think, with a little gentle nudge from myself and Lorna, I think I can get them there, So they're pretty accepting of it, in fairness.
I think the way is like easy recipes, and if you can cook a little bit for them and leave them taste it for themselves, they're like, "Oh wait, now this this doesn't taste like grass or something,"
Yeah.
So they're a little bit more open to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess was there an element with the family particularly of a lot of families, mine included, we have there's certain dishes, there's certain events that there's very traditional kind of trappings around, at this time of year we have this, at birthdays we have that, and often those things are not vegan. So has it been a case of like, when you're thinking about recipes, perhaps not starting with the most complex ingredients and kind of diving straight in with the tofu and perhaps going with the meat substitutes and things like that? Has that been your kind of approach with the family, or more kind of, right, you're going to have the full 5-star vegan experience?
I think with mine, it was probably just everything. Like at family gatherings, I know my dad really struggled with it because he's very much like, I don't want to force my views on other people. And I was like,
right.
Dad, we're all eating vegan.
We're all doing it.
So if people are going to come to our house and enjoy food, they're going to eat what we're eating, Because my other brother at the time, he's not vegan. He's the only one in the family that's not vegan. So he's very fussy with his food. He'll only eat, like mashed potatoes and a meat source. But you know, we started introducing him to, you know, the Beyond Burger and meat alternatives and stuff, and he'll eat them while he's over because he has no choice. But yeah, in that sense, it's just like, you know, you're getting a vegan meal and that's it. That's it.
Yeah, and even in my own family, I kind of adapted the meat alternative approach. So, like I said with Dad, you know, he was always a fan of, you know, sausages or whatever. So I kind of, you know, make a meat alternative version and throw them up for him, and he loved them, you know. And the same with Mum. So kind of opened their eyes a little bit more. You know, I know the meat alternatives, they're probably not the greatest nutritionally. You know, you'd be saying that, but like just to transition, I think they're a very, very good tool to have. And, you know, you have to live a little bit, enjoy them as well. So I think with that approach, my mum and dad definitely, you know, that was the way to go with them. And then slowly I'll start throwing in a little bit of tofu.
Yeah, because I think like when we always try and remind ourselves, and when you're going vegan, you know, like people's taste buds are the same, so it takes a little bit of time to get them to really appreciate the taste and to adjust their palates really to new flavors, because generally Irish people especially, they're not very adventurous with their food. It's you know, the typical kind of boiled stuff and a bit of salt and pepper. It's not majorly adventurous. So I think when you bring on the vegan diet and recipes, there's so much more flavor in there, so it's you know, it kind of draws them in a lot more as well.
Yeah, it's crazy. And even I noticed myself, I would have been a wicked fussy eater before I became vegetarian first and then vegan. I wasn't a veg, like I literally, Irish veg, turnip, carrots, that's what I had, maybe some peas, and I was like, yeah, they're the bomb, and that's what I used to eat. But I would never eat anything else, like onions, peppers, like they were just, they were completely exotic and off limits to me. But since I became vegan and, you know, experiencing even Lorna's cooking and cooking myself, like my diet has obviously completely changed, but the variety that's in my diet now and the fact that I can actually taste vegetables. So like before, when I was younger, I'd eat an onion and a pepper and I'd absolutely, you know, be revolted and hate it. But now, like, I'm actually so much more open and I'm eating a lot more veg because you can actually taste the flavour of the vegetable, you know, rather than just this bland and texture kind of thing. So for me, it's been, you know, life-changing in that sense, that my whole diet has completely varied and become so much better.
Yeah.
On the note, actually, and it would be, I feel like anybody with any kind of nutritional background, I feel like I need to ask this question to, because it's sort of, I flip flop on it, and regular listeners will know it's a point of discussion of with various people. But meat substitutes and so on, we've seen them like explode over the last few years, and often people kind of cite that as like this is the growth of veganism, and I guess it is. There's a little concern always for me in that regard that we are introducing people to this way of eating. You know, I mean, I accept, you know, when we talk veganism, we're highlighting the food part here, and we're not necessarily talking about the bigger picture. But just to talk on the food for a second, we're kind of saying to people, yeah, this is the entry point. Get your Richmond sausages and your Cathedral City plant-based and all this kind of stuff. And I wonder whether we are actually... Yes, it's better than the meat alternatives. Certainly is from an ethical point of view, but I mean from a health standpoint, it's probably better. But are we actually going to potentially put ourselves at risk of folks going, well, do you know what? I didn't actually feel all the health benefits that I expected to. I haven't. Maybe if it was losing weight that they were trying to achieve, or maybe like lowering their cholesterol or whatever the health outcome they wanted, those things haven't happened as I expected. And now it doesn't work for me, you know, because I haven't got the ethical hook that, you know, that we've all had. And so maybe they just came at it from the dietary point of view. Does that kind of concern you if we sort of, you know, attach too much weight to just the kind of the meat alternatives and so on?
Definitely. Like I always, anytime I'm coaching or working with anyone, I always say, you know, the alternatives are, it's almost like a treat, you know, if you're out at something and you want to have like a Beyond Meat burger or something, you know, go for it there. It's like almost like a takeaway. But yeah, the whole alternatives, they're not healthy, you know, they're not going to help people in any way. it's really affecting the gut health as well, especially. And I think if people hang on to those alternatives and get addicted, because they do have addictive substances in there as well, then you're going down a wrong path. So I totally agree with that. I think it's important to get people to understand it from a health perspective, because we're so attached to the taste. Like the taste is everything. But you know, I think if we can teach people easy, simple recipes with like the basics, you know, beans and tofu and tempeh, you know, you can create so much nicer foods, I think, than like I never eat Beyond Burgers or anything like that, because they just never interested me. I just went straight into the beans and the tofu. But yeah, I think really educating people on the health side of it is the most important part, because like you said, no one's going to experience the health benefits if you're just eating processed foods all the time.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Like, I think if you could make them understand that whether you're vegan or you're a meat eater, processed food is processed food. And at the end of the day, processed food is not good for us. You know what I mean? So whatever kind of a diet that you have or a lifestyle that you're adopting, if you're continuously eating processed food all the time, it's going to catch up with you, you know? So it's very, very important, especially as you do turn vegan. Like Lorna said, they're good and they're handy to have now and again. But if you can adopt maybe like an 80-20 rule where you can kind of, you know, go 80% whole foods and, you know, choose organic where possible. I know it's not always possible, but getting good foods 80% of the time. And then that other 20%, have your burger, you know, have your Beyond Meat or have your, you know, I think it's very important to educate people that, and I think that's what happens to a lot of people. And that's why they become ex-vegans, because, you know, they transition from a highly processed meat eating diet and then they just replace it with vegan processed food. And then all of a sudden, well, what are these all raving about? Like, you know, I'm still like I was. In fact, my health has gotten worse, you know, and not making the connection that it's not the vegan food, it's the processed food is the problem, you know?
That's one thing that bothers me, is when you hear these ex-vegans saying veganism ruined my diet and my hair is falling out and all this. I just love to talk to them and be like, okay, what were you actually eating, you know? How's your gut health? Because a lot of the time when people, even before they go vegan, they have a poor gut. And until you actually fix your gut health, you're not going to be able to absorb all the nutrients, even if you're eating a really healthy, balanced diet. You know, you really need to work on your gut health, and that's so important as well. That's a big, big important factor.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, from a personal disclosure point of view, so I've been vegan 7 years, similar to yourself, Lauren, and I actually probably started super healthy, a bit like yourself. I probably started with the beans and the legumes and so on, and I found myself sort of slowly. You know, I've had a little boy in the interim who's now 5, a little vegan, and you know, as he's you know, you become a bit time poor and so on, and starting a business and so on, and so you start slowly creeping in, and there's more alternatives, and you get into this weird psyche of like, well, if I don't eat that cake in the coffee shop, they might not sell it anymore, which is just not the case, and I need to get out of that habit. So anyway, so fast forward sort of 7 years on, and I hadn't particularly lost weight. If anything, I probably put on weight since that initial kind of year or so, and I had a full blood test, and fully expecting them to come back and, like, you know, they'd be gathering around the student doctors going, I can't believe these results are so fantastic. Like how, but what? But it wasn't the B12 and it wasn't the iron and all the stuff that people talk about, but it was my cholesterol. They actually said your cholesterol's high, and I was like, well, I don't eat cholesterol. There's no way I could, you know. And then they started to talk to me about, you know, well, it could be like, you know, processed foods and sugars and things like this. Things don't help. And I was like, oh, actually, when I start looking at it, there is actually quite a lot of that probably crept in.
Yeah, I'd agree. Like I would be like you. I started off really, really healthy, and like I had Lorna, so I was getting all the good food.
Yeah.
And then what happened was I was self-employed and I was working for myself, and I was doing all these crazy hours, getting home, you know, at 9 o'clock at night or whatever, and I'd go for the quick thing. So it'd be like, what's in the fridge? You know, so it'd be, I don't know, the vegan pizza or the Beyond Burger. Next thing I'd be eating that late in the night. And I got into a vicious cycle. And like you, I kind of put on a little bit of weight. And, you know, I got to a point where I was like, hey, like, you know, it's going down the wrong road here. You know, I need to do something. So, you know, I think it does happen to a lot of people. They do, and they just fall into that process trap. It's convenient, you know, like you said, you're short on time, and it's just about what you can get in to go to the next thing. So, yeah, I quickly had to change that, and I had no excuse because I was working in a gym. So I felt even worse. So I was working in there all day and then coming home and eating not the greatest food. But yeah, eventually I just needed to give myself a kick, you know, a kick back into it, and just realize, no, adopt the 80-20 rule. And that's what I've been doing ever since. And, you know, it's been working wonders for me.
Can we talk breathwork?
Oh,
Yay!
Should we talk about that?
Yeah.
And again, bit of personal disclosure. Completely naive in this space, so I'd love to hear about it. Educate me. I'd love to understand how you got into this kind of thing. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, so basically we've been like, I can talk for myself, I know you as well, but been a little bit more open-minded. But in recent years I kept on seeing this breathwork popping up, and I thought to myself, you know, you're breathing like what, you know, we all breathe. What's the big
Can't be that hard, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what is the big deal? And then I got an opportunity. It kept on popping up. So I was like, okay, I need to listen to this little, you know, it's like a nudge from the universe maybe. And so I saw this course. Miguel, he's a Dutch guy. He was offering a breathwork course. So I said, okay, we'll do it. She actually did it with me. She decided to do it with me. And oh my God, we were just blown away. It literally just opened our eyes to breathing techniques, and how literally just by controlling your breath in different ways, you can calm your mind, you can release stress, you can release tension,
Regulate your nervous system.
Like you can literally affect everything, your immune system, your everything, like every single system in your body can be affected by breathwork. And that's why we love it, because we can connect with not only vegans, but non-vegans. So that's our little way of, you know, allowing people to open your mind a little bit more and kind of slow down. And that's why we love breathwork, just because we can connect with absolutely everyone and show them the power of literally just, you know, giving yourself half an hour every day. It doesn't even have to be a half an hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You can actually change your state completely. Because I know for me, before I used to try and meditate, and you'd sit there and you'd be like thinking of what you have to do tomorrow, and you know, it's very, very hard to do. Like I tried the headspace thing and it helps, but with the breath, you're actually focusing on the breath. So you can think about nothing but the breath. You're doing these different techniques. You have to think and be fully present in the moment. So while you're doing that, it calms your mind, it calms your body, it calms everything.
Yeah.
And you can really feel the effects like immediately after doing breath work, which, you know, is absolutely amazing.
And for me, like how I initially like wanted to discover breath work, obviously after becoming vegan, I went on this whole journey inwards towards myself and just spiritual growth to open my mind. And like I said previously, I was self-employed, and you know, when you're self-employed, you're working every hour under the sun. And I kind of neglected myself. So I'm a qualified physiotherapist, so that's what I was doing. And I remember I could be doing like 14, 15 clients a day. I could be working 16 hours a day. And I was doing that Monday to Saturday. And I done it for, oh God, I can't even remember, a couple of years. And eventually I got to a point where my sciatic nerve flared up in my left leg. And I would have been very active, so I would have been weight training and powerlifting at that time as well. But it was nothing that I done there. And when I took a step back, I realised what I actually was doing. I was burnt out. So this was a signal from my body saying, hang on a second, you're looking after everybody else here and you're not looking after yourself. My sleep was all over the place. I was eating shite food, so that processed food. So I wasn't looking after myself. And you know, as a physio, I kind of knew a lot of the big dogs in the game. And I spent hundreds going to all these top qualified guys. I knew what was wrong with me, but I just didn't know why it happened. I knew my sciatic nerve was impinged. I just didn't know why. And I went to all these big guys and they were literally telling me like, it's in my head. You know, there's nothing wrong. or potentially telling me it was something completely different. Oh, it's the powerlifting, stop that powerlifting, give up weight training, stop moving, all this crap. And I realised, then all of a sudden, like Lorna, breathwork seemed to just pop out of nowhere. And it was a friend of mine popped up on my Instagram, and I seen he was doing it. And I just got in contact with him. He was an old friend of mine from the Navy. And I just reached out to him and said, look, what are you doing? What is this like? And he told me about breathwork, and he told me, about the guy teaching at Miguel and stuff like that. And I swear to God, within a week of doing breathwork and qigong, my sciatica had completely got reduced. So I remember it was last year that you're coming into your brother's wedding. The sciatica flared up in June, I think it was, and it didn't go it was reducing, but it was a chronic problem for me. But the more I gave myself that little half an hour in the morning to practice breathwork, to get my qigong in, to get my mindful movement in, regulate my nervous system, the pain signal turned off in my body. So with movement and giving myself that priority and that time out, I healed myself, So I'm trying to come from a place that people are, they're in chronic pain all the time, and they, like a lot of things, they think tablets are the answer, or mask the pain with some sort of medication. They have their place, but they're not the be all and end all. And I really genuinely, and this is coming from a deep place, Jim, but I actually think breathwork saved my life, because when I was going through that chronic pain, I could have ended it all. If someone said to me, I'll cut the leg off you and your pain will be gone, just let me do it, I would have left them do it. It was the worst pain I had ever come across in my life, and it affected me so much on a physical and a mental level. But when I started doing the breathwork, and then I seen myself improving and realising, hang on a second, if I'm struggling like this, how many other people are out there struggling like this? So we both kind of connected on that and said, you know what, I want to help people with breathwork. I want to show them. And like Lorna, when I seen it first, I was thinking to myself, what are these people doing? You're breathing every day, sure. The body has to do that. That's why I'm standing here. I'm alive, So I didn't think anything about it, but it's such a powerful practice. And it's literally it's our own superpower. You're literally, every time you sit and you give yourself 30 minutes or 10 minutes to practice that technique or a technique, you're improving your health level on a cellular level, on a physical level, on an emotional level. And it's just amazing.
Even the type, sometimes if we have old trauma and emotions stored in our body, it shows up differently for everyone. So it might be a physical ailment. So for Aoife, it might have been her sciatic nerve. For someone else, it might be heart conditions, depending on what different traumas. But with actually breathwork, you can slowly release the emotional traumas and the fears without having to go to a counsellor.
Yeah.
It's literally, it's unbelievable. And to be able to help people, especially, we see the biggest thing is people are so stressed.
Yeah.
People are so stressed. They're not giving themselves 5 minutes to slow down. But, if we can kind of try to get to them where, okay, make this a bit of time for yourself every day and be consistent with it, and literally watch your life transform, because, we felt it ourselves, and we've worked with a few people and we've got great feedback from it. And we can see it recently, breathwork is getting more popular. It's almost like the new yoga, it's increasing. You're hearing more about it, and that's because of the benefits. People who are actually practicing every day and feeling the benefits, we want to share with other people. So
yeah, and for me, that's exactly what it was. For me, I was burnt out, like I said, and it was chronic stress. And the only way that my body was going to, react or something was going to happen to me was the pain. That was the signal from my body. So, if that didn't happen to me, I could have ended up with heart problems, or, I could have been further down the line, because some people don't even realize that they're stressed, that they're and I didn't know I was stressed. I was just working all the time. I was trying to make money. I wasn't even thinking about myself. And then when you sit back and you look at what you were doing to yourself, if a family member came to you and said that they were working all these hours and they felt all these symptoms, what was the first thing that you'd say to them? You'd say, you need to start taking care of yourself. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the very second I started filling up my own cup and making time for myself, my body just let go of that stress. My nervous system started to regulate itself. I balanced my energy systems, and the pain signal inside turned itself off. And that's what's wrong with a lot of people who are in chronic pain. That pain receptor is switched on, And because that body is stuck in stress mode, it can't turn itself off, you know? So there's loads of people out there that think that they have to go through life with pain or stress, and they think that they can't get any way, you know, that there's no way out of it, that this is just normal now, which is, it couldn't be further from the truth, you know? And like I said, doctors and medicine, they have their point and they have their place. But just from me, seeing it from a physio side of things and then the breathwork side of things, no doctor was going to help me or no physio was going to help me. Like, I literally had to help myself. So that's what I want to kind of, you know, that's why I kind of got trained in it and learned to do the practices, is in order just to help so many people and realize that there is help out there, you know?
Yeah.
How does it work? Where do you start?
So really, how we really start is you have to kind of teach people the simple way of actually, okay, am I breathing properly? How do you actually breathe properly? Because most of us, 90% of people actually are shallow breathers. So you're breathing in your chest. And when you're breathing in your chest, it keeps you in a sympathetic nervous system, which is that stress, it's fight or flight. So your body, the systems in your body is not actually working properly because you're always in the fear, which is controlled by your breath. If you're not breathing properly, you're stressed.
So you know that feeling of fight or flight, like the body wants, you know, it's there to be switched on when we need to get away. But what's wrong is there's a lot of people stuck in chronic stress all the time, and they're stuck in that sympathetic nervous system, and that state that's turned on in them all the time, and like you said, they don't even know. So they're shallow breathing, so they're using the top half of the body and they're not using the diaphragm and the bottom end of the lungs. So what ends up happening is the lungs, the intercostal muscles and the diaphragm, they actually shorten. And like any muscle in the body, if you don't use it over time, it becomes short and stuck, you know. So essentially you literally have to retrain yourself to open up that lung space and that energy system again, and open up those muscles and get blood flow and energy in there again. So I think that's the basis of it, because like you said, 90% of people, they're shallow breathing.
And it sounds kind of complicated, but it's literally just learning to deep breathe into your belly. And that's the basic part of it. That's just the basic part. You can do all different types. You can do like breath holds. You can do like pumping action. It can help all different things like your skin, your digestion. It supports your gut health. There's literally, we could go on for days about all the different types of breathing techniques that you can use for different ailments, like of the body and the mind.
Yeah, and it's funny because when you initially do a session with somebody and you're teaching them how to breathe again, like when you breathe in, your belly is supposed to expand and get bigger, and 90% of people don't know that. So when they breathe in, they suck their belly in as well. But believe it or not, that's not how you breathe. You know, you breathe inward, expand your belly, push the air up, and then you let it out. So a lot of us tend to hold a lot of trauma and a lot of tension in the lower abdomen and in the intercostals. So those lungs, they can't expand, you know. So it's about retraining the body. And it's, you know, I know we're breathing from when we're born, but we're never shown how to do it properly.
It's fascinating. As you're talking, I'm like thinking about how I'm breathing. Was really conscious as you was. It was all up there.
That's it.
I'm probably am like, And then I suppose on top of that, and again, I'm probably speaking for myself here and my recent kind of little look at my own habits, but we're on top of that. You know, I'm probably overly caffeinated, probably taking in quite a lot of sugar as well and things like that. And so all of these things can lead to a more, you know, more anxious state.
Oh, absolutely.
Poorer sleep. Yeah. You know, so I guess it's all like a holistic thing. It's looking at the whole picture. Yeah,
it's totally connected. Like every single, the thoughts that you think is connected to your body, and all those like stimulating substance, whatever it is, coffee, that affects people. Some people are more sensitive to caffeine. Others can handle it a little bit more. But, you know, if you're consistently taking in caffeine, it's going to affect your nervous system. It's going to affect your digestion and absolutely everything. But, I mean, we actually even have techniques that we actually did one today with our group called the coffee breath. It's you know, it's like a boost of coffee. So you're kind of in and you're moving your arms a little bit. And when you actually stop after you finish doing the breath, you literally can feel the energy going throughout your body. Like, so it would be great if you were,
Wow.
going on a run or doing a gym workout.
Yeah,
doing
if you're getting ready for like an interview, or you'd run through a wall after doing some of this. We kind of do a variation of calming and stimulating. And after doing like a stimulating one, like the coffee break, you literally, you're ready to go. Like, so it's, it's really, really cool. And, we all love a coffee, don't get me wrong, but it's just about being, taking things in moderation. And if you can give yourself the little 30 minutes, maybe you won't need the coffee one day or 2 days in the week,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to put you on the spot, but I feel like it would be good to sort of show some folks some things to do. Give them a bit of a practice.
Yeah.
Is that a thing we can do?
Oh yeah, totally. I wonder, do you want to do a stimulating one or a learning how to breathe one?
I think let's do a learning how to breathe.
Okay.
Because the concept of that fascinates me, and I can already feel from what you've told me already that I need some work.
Right. Well, whoever's listening as well, we want to make sure that everyone. So you don't have to sit in a lotus pose for this. We usually do, but you don't have to. As long as you're not sitting on a bed or anything, you want to sit in a chair and keep your spine nice and straight. Okay. So we're
going to check whether my spine's
nice and straight.
So you can, if you want, you can put your hands on your belly so you can feel it. So it really helps you to connect your mind and your breath and your body together. So as you breathe in, breathe in through your nose. So we're going to be breathing in through our nose and out through our nose. As you breathe in, you want to feel the belly expanding. So nice, slow, deep breath in. Feel the belly expanding. And as you breathe out, the belly should retract and go in towards the body. So as you breathe out, really push everything out. Okay, so keep doing that. And we're going to try and move the breath upwards. So for shallow breathers, it might be a little bit harder to bring the breath in fully and upwards, but do what you can here. So as you breathe into the belly and pull it up slightly. You should feel your ribs expanding. And as you exhale, then the ribs will retract and the belly will come into the body. So nice and slow. Breathe into the belly. Feel the ribs expanding. And release. So just focus on nice, long, slow, deep breaths. And if you want, at the end, when you breathe in, you can hold the breath for a second or two, as long as whatever feels comfortable. And as you exhale, then you can really feel the shoulders relax, relax your face, relax everything. So on the breath in, you're really focusing on, you're breathing in new life. On the exhale, then it's like you're releasing the stress, you're releasing the worries and everything from your physical body. So that's basically it. Like, we could go further. It just depends on the person as well, and where you're at in your breathwork journey. Like, can you feel the difference?
Yeah.
Just literally,
already.
Like literally, just even after giving yourself 4 or 5 conscious breaths that you now know you're taking and you're focusing on them, you can already feel your state start to change. Like, you can feel that calm space. So that was literally a few minutes. So if you've done 30 minutes of that consistently, I always try to tell people, especially from being in a gym environment, they harp on about training and it's important to make the muscles strong. And breathwork is the very, very same thing. Every little time you sit down and you do a breathwork session, you're making your body more resilient, you're making it stronger, and you're preventing illness potentially and disease as well, so. And
the one thing as well, you see a lot of the Wim Hof, which is all movement, it's strong breathing, and people are really gravitating towards that, which is absolutely amazing. But a lot of people forget that the slow breathing is just as important. If you're always doing stimulating strong breathing, you're actually gonna slow down. You're actually gonna like release a lot of energy. So when we started off, we were doing a lot of strong breathing, and we realized that we got really energy depleted.
Yeah.
So you have to balance it out with slow breathing. And when you're doing the slow breathing, it's actually harder, I think, than the strong breathing, because when you're doing it slow, you really have to sit and be present. And for the majority of society, that's a really, really hard thing to do. You prefer to be up and busy and doing something. Whereas when you're really sitting down and you're slow, you're connecting with the breath, it is harder, but it allows you to really calm down your mind. You're literally changing your perspective on life and coming at life from a calmer mind space.
Yeah, like, and it's funny that you say that, Jim, even before you said to me, like, the anger that I had, you know, coming from being a vegan and having worked in that environment, I would have been quite reactive. And now I notice, even, you know, I would have had a char fuse anyway. And since I started practicing breathwork and kind of managing my stress levels, I can now, no matter what life throws at me or what curveball comes at me, I can now react from a calmer space. So, you know, like if someone is aggressive or things are not going right, you know, I have the tools now, and my body is in a position where I can react and just deal with it. You know, if I can't control it at that moment in time, it's okay. It's not the end of the world, you know. So that alone has been massive for me as well, because, you know, as we know, anger and it all leads into, you know, stress and high blood pressure and things like that. So that's something that I kind of, it has helped me feel or deal with and heal it almost. So yeah, really, really good.
Literally life changing.
Life changing. Life changing.
Well, just in that minute, you've got me hooked.
Yeah, great.
I want to take it further. I love it. This sounds awesome, and I definitely like felt a shift.
Yeah.
And what you said there about the slow breathing being more difficult just made me think about, you know, every spare minute I have, I pick up a phone and probably overstimulate myself.
Yeah.
And, you know,
everybody does it.
Yeah, you're in a constant scroll, and just that forcing yourself to be in a, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's half an hour, if you can, sort of state where you're very present. I think and the worst that's going to happen is you're going to feel a lot better about life, you know?
Exactly. Like when you actually give yourself a minute to just switch off, you're in that rest and recharge mode. You're literally replenishing your body and your soul. Like it goes really deep, even though you think it might be just, oh, I'm just breathing. It's just beyond words, really.
Yeah, and it's funny because, you know, you talk about the phone. You could spend 30 minutes on your phone and, like, you don't even realise that time is after passing. But try sit with yourself for 30 minutes and you're like, it's a whole new ball game, you know? But no, it is. It's a beautiful practice, and, you know, it's definitely changed my life, and I would probably say the same for you as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just been amazing, and that kind of, it kind of inspired us to set up our membership. So that's what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
We've uprooted our lives from Ireland, and we're now living in the Azores Islands. And we created an online space for people and an online membership just to come and to have a group of like-minded people, for starters, but to have support and guidance. And they get daily breathwork every day and daily qigong, you know, and we're trying to push the stress thing, because, like I said earlier, there's so many people stressed out. A lot of people know they are, but there's also a good portion of the population that don't know they are, you know, and they don't give themselves enough time. So we're trying to make health different and interesting, but very effective, and also, you know, very reasonable as well, because as we all know, health and mental health especially, it can be very expensive, and a lot of people think that there's no help out there. So yeah, we created a membership, and we did want to let you know as well, you know, for anybody that does listen to the podcast and are interested, if they do want to join us, we have a lovely little discount code that we can pass on to yourself as well.
Awesome.
That if anybody, you know, and we're so confident that people will enjoy the breathwork and the qigong and the membership, that after the first month, if they're by some chance that they're not happy, we'll even promise to give the money back. You know, so they'll get daily breathwork and qigong for less than $140 a day.
That's amazing. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we'll pop the discount code and all the links in the show notes so folks can find them.
Yeah.
But Aoife, Lorna, it's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you. I've learnt loads, and it's been a great chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us on. We really appreciate it.
So thank you. And I just wanted to say, Jim, I reached out to a couple of people, and you were one of very few that got back to us. So thank you so much.
Oh, no worries.
If you're looking for a breathwork session, we'll happily look after you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I will. Thanks. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you.